A very good morning to you, Lagos, and every part of the world. If you're tuned in to Smooth 98.1, welcome to Smooth Breakfast with Valentine Uhu.
And Ayo Myra say good morning, Lagos.
Good morning. We've gone through the first hour and a half of the show, and we are at the point where we'll get to discuss in detail analysis of our newspaper stories, headlines that caught our attention this morning. Taking stories from This Day, Premium Times, Guardian Punch, and Vanguard. And of course, we will have our analysts go through the stories with us. We have Bola Hunt, Mr. G Quest with us. Good morning.
Morning, Ayo. Good morning, Valentine. And good morning, Lagos.
Thank you, Bolaon, perfect gentleman. I notice
Ladies
you always
first.
call my name first. Thank you for that honor.
And here's how you can contribute to the show.
All right, you can send a WhatsApp message to 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981. On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. Please use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981. On YouTube, search for us on Smooth98.1. Subscribe to our channel and use the live chat channel, please, to send your messages.
We have our first story that speaks about the fire that engulfed Battle of Bar Market yesterday. This day newspaper carried this report we're taking. A region inferno yesterday got to the high-rise building, housing shops, and residential homes at the Balogun Market in Victoria Island in Lagos. People could see it from far and wide. In the Marina area, as the fire engulfed the building, firefighters extinguished the flames. After hours of battling the fire, there were billows of smoke that rose high in the air. It caused a lot of panic yesterday. We saw the tweets, we saw the images, we saw the videos. Most reactions, were just around the delay in response, from the agencies that were concerned. But we'll have statements from the Lagos State Emergency Management Authority, the agency rather, General Manager Dr. Femi Oke, Dr. Femi Oke Osayin Tolu. Take us through the story. I mean, examining the response time, the need for insurance, safety, and every other aspect or factor that is missing here.
Well, yeah, let me start by reading the statement from the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency. That's the General Manager, Dr. Femi Oke, just as you mentioned. And in his statement, he did say, I'll quote, the Lagos State government is committed to the protection of lives and properties of citizens and would not leave any stone unturned to ensure that we're going to ensure. And so they're going to launch their investigations, he said. So going to that, the primary objective of any government, just as we always say, is the protection of lives and properties. And when we're talking about protection of lives and properties, thank God in the fire incidents that there was no life lost. So that's one thing to be grateful for.
Yes.
But on the other hand, when we're looking at the protection of properties, we can read through the articles, and there's a lot of claims that billions of properties were damaged and lost. And in the fire incidents along this axis, just as you said, this is not the first time that we'll be having a fire incident happen in Lagos or around Lagos or even the Lagos Island axis. It's nothing unusual to have a fire incident. It happens from time to time. It happens all over the world. It happened in one of the most iconic buildings in Paris. We could see. But the situation here is, how does the government respond to these situations? Response in what were the preventative measures that have been put in place? That's one. And when we're talking about preventative measures, we're looking at what's the role of the fire safety organization in Nigeria in ensuring that buildings comply with health and safety standards and fire standards. I know for a fact that Lagos State Fire Service do have a management team that goes around and ensures that properties are fit and are adequately equipped to prevent fires. And as such, they have fire safety measures. They look at it, and you're also advised to have your fire extinguishers in case of fire incidences occur. So they do this on an annual basis. They inspect properties. That's on the preventative aspect. Then when you go on to finding a solution to the problem too, then you're now looking at access by the fire emergency team. And in the article did say that they were hindered from getting access to the fire emergency. It also talked about the duration, how long it took for the fire management team to get to site. So these are all the aspects that need to be investigated. These are areas that need to be looked into by the Lagos State Fire Safety Management team. They need to look at this. They need to look at the time, the response time. They need to look at access to most of these areas. We know on the Lagos Island, we have issues with gaining access, because the article did also say that they were uh, prevented from getting access to the to the site.
Yes.
And this prevents this could have occurred due to people selling products on the streets. You also have situations of onlookers, people watching as well. And so you have this generally that occurs in Lagos. But in conclusion, what I just wanted to add to it as well is that what exactly is the role of the citizens too? Because the citizens are also culpable in this. It was said in the article that while some people were trying to put off the fire, you also had people that were trying to steal.
Yes.
And this happens a lot.
And it took the efforts of the rapid response squad to stem those banditry, or rather, let's say banditry.
I mean, people put their
robbery
lives.
incidences.
Yeah, they put their lives at risk. We've seen video clips of petrol tankers leaking and people trying as well, putting their lives at risk.
Yes, but I have a question to ask, Bolaho. When you started your analysis, you mentioned something very instructive. You said articles probably worth billions of naira. There lies my question. When we have incidents as unfortunate as this fire incidents, amongst others, we know the one that happened in Onitsha not so long ago. When these things happen, the first thing you see in a press release is articles worth millions of naira or billions of naira. How are how is the cost appraised? Especially when you know that some of these shops, some of these articles, or some of these properties are not covered by insurance. We know in the insurance process, before you insure your items, there's an appraisal that goes on. First of all, to establish that, this is how much your items cost, just to know the worth. And then how do you now say, after an incident or after a fire like this, exactly how much the losses cost?
Well, Valentine, I'll be honest with you. It is very difficult to do evaluation. And the reason why is that many a times, just as you said, when you do take out insurance, the insurance company would ensure that these items that you have are genuine items that you're claiming for. Now, when the items are not insured, it's now at the discretion of the owners to tell you what the valuations of their product are. And as we know, our Nigerianness, if something is worth, wait, hold on. If something is worth 1 million, it is what? Formal or informal? Trading. It is an informal trading, but at the end of the day, the owners of their products should know how much stock they have in. But there is the tendency of inflating these products because
undervaluing it, so they pay less insurance on the market.
If you do have insurance, but you stand the risk of, if you undervalue it, then you only get less what you're claiming for too. But in the real sense of it, if you don't have insurance, you know that people will now start telling you that the items are worth X amount, simply being they expect government to come to their aid.
It's the risk that comes with informal trade. Unfortunately, they will lose. Balogun was a disaster waiting. And I hope the government plans to build proper infrastructure. They may not compensate, but build low-tier infrastructure so that market people, traders who come to Lagos and make it a marketplace hive will be safe. It's like those buildings that fell down. Same equation.
Before those buildings fell down, the former
Here we go again.
Somebody actually had a plan to relocate.
Somebody was angry in Onitsha and sent the blessing to Lagos.
All right, okay, let's move on to earlier on. Someone had actually mentioned that Isaac about Nigerians not doing insurance. They see insurance like they're dashing company money, especially if no loss is experienced for a period. To mention also that the cost of insuring is really very small. But right now, Dr. I says all fires in Lagos are man-made, same as building collapsing. The failures in prevention and fighting the fires and disaster management is simply a failure of government. Let government enforce building regulations and planning regulations. And then Vincent says our response time to emergency situation in this country is also very slow, and crowd management is another factor in handling emergencies. Thank God there was no loss of life.
Yes. Premium Times has the next story. Bolahon, let's go into this. So Shomole defends Buhari signing Nigerian law in London, says presidents can rule from anywhere. You heard the chatter yesterday, how people were asking questions. Why didn't he hand over power to the vice president? But he's still ruling from there. Your thoughts on this story?
Well, I mean,
Impunity.
Absolutely.
No,
Well,
please.
to start off,
It is.
That's a bit extreme, though.
No, but that's what it is.
let me start by saying that I think we will do ourselves a huge service.
Mm.
I'm talking about the media houses now by changing this word, because there's nothing else that really upsets me when I see statements such as ruling from anywhere.
Mm.
This is not, we're not in a military
Dictatorship.
dictatorship. You know, we are governed.
Democracy.
Governance, we're in a democracy.
Mm.
The use of rule, it's
Yes.
I mean, sends the wrong message.
Yeah.
But going on to the story now, we're talking about Shomele defending the president for signing the new offshore act, deep offshore act in London, which we all know that he is currently in at the moment, and they're taking a 2 weeks personal private visit. It says, well, whilst I would start by saying that in the past, we've seen the president go away on several visits to the UK on one reason or one ground or the other. And while he has left office, he has handed over power to the vice president. And in this case, he hasn't done such. We cannot really establish the reason why he hasn't done that now. Maybe because the president feels that he's only going to be away for a short while. But it doesn't really matter whether you're away for a short while or not. Once you're leaving office, yes, you can always hand over
But
power
he's not.
to.
He didn't leave office. He traveled.
Well-
He travels often. He goes to all these countries for meetings,
Yes,
for international
he
parties,
does.
African summits. It doesn't necessarily mean he's leaving office.
He left office when he went on
Leaving
a
office
private
is
visit.
when you go on a private visit, then you have left the office.
Essentially, he's not incapacitated.
He,
So is it wrong for him to
he
sign?
was neither
a
he was
bill?
not incapacitated
Mm.
while he handed over
No, but
to the
okay, so
president.
here's an argument, sir. So I'm sorry to
The vice president. Yeah, go
Here's
on.
an argument. You can make a private visit
Yes.
if it's you're not on leave, personally in your place of work.
No, you
And
can't.
wait,
No,
hold on.
hold on.
You can work from home. So you might be on a working visit. Hold on,
Yeah,
let me
go on.
just finish. So if you work for a private institution, you have an emergency to attend to. Maybe you have a health checkup,
Mm.
and you're still receiving emails, having meetings via modern
Mm.
technology, and still ensuring that you're on top of things. That's different from a formal leave. So is the president allowed to also take private visits like that, short visits,
No.
and still be able to work
No.
from from
The
home?
truth is this, right? We've been abusing the law in
Of
so
course.
many ways, and that's why I called it impunity. And because there's so much excusing and rationalization, we forget how deep they have been flouting the laws. The president is on duty.
Mm.
We must remember that.
Mhm.
It's a 24/7 call to duty. It has no break. If there's a break, he will inform the country through the Senate, as a letter through the Senate, transmit powers. Do you understand this? Because it is 24/7,
Yeah.
and then he can take a break, during which period nobody can disturb him because he has declared he's taking a break. There is no perception
But
or
therefore, is he taking a
position.
break?
He didn't say it was.
He went
say
on a
was-
private
He's on a
visit.
private
The president. What does that mean?
Let me ask you a
That the
question.
security
Let
will
me
leave
ask
him.
you this way.
Okay.
Let me ask you this way. I mean, if President Buhari did not travel abroad,
Mhm.
if he went to Ibadan and he's in a meeting in Ibadan and they send this bill to Ibadan for him to sign, would it have made a difference in this case?
But he's
Oh,
on duty.
but
I'm
he's-
asking a question.
wait.
Just like on that premise, would it have made a difference?
It's not
No,
about
but-
being
no.
abroad.
Okay,
If
let
he
me-
took a private visit within Nigeria, the same scenario. It's not about being abroad.
But he's actually still in it. Let me say something though. I mean, the issue that you have at hand here is the symbolism of this, that your president is running the country whilst outside the country. He's signing bills and signing things. It's just the symbolism of it. He doesn't speak well.
Is
Well,
this
you're
the first
talking-
time he's doing it?
Yeah, but that's the problem, because he
Part
has
of
done
the
it
problem.
series over
But
time and time
I would
again.
say
We've come to
he
accept
can't
it as a
sign-
norm, but it's
He
not the
can't
norm.
sign bills because his powers are omniscient. I mean, they cut across anywhere at any point in time.
Mm.
However,
Mhm.
he cannot take off duty without informing the country
But he's
and then
not saying
pass
he's
it.
off duty. Obviously, by signing this bill, it means he's still
So
working.
he cannot
Just
take
not
a
in Aso
private
Rock.
visit.
Okay, all right, let's move on to our comments here. We have this one says, which constitutional provision did President Buhari breach by his signing of bill in the Nigerian House abroad? You may wish to educate me. I hope you all know that the embassy of a country anywhere in the
Yes,
world
we
is an
know.
extension of the country's
Yes.
borders. For a law that has faced international opposition, which had made it stillbirth until now, could it be that President Buhari singled out that bill among the many waiting for his ascent to stave off further opposition. This is from Diary in Lagos. Amelolu
Sorry.
says, to be fair to the president, the constitution mandates that if he'll be away for more than 21 days, then he has to send a letter to the Senate and the VP, then who then act as president. He's traveling for 2 weeks, which is less than 21 days, so no laws have been broken yet.
Exactly. Let's move on to the next story. Devo, I'd like you to take us through this one from the Guardian newspaper. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has said the challenges of policing a vast country make it imperative to adopt a people-oriented approach. What does this imply?
Okay, let's start by defining what this people-oriented approach means. It means you will work in the interest of the people. It's as simple as that. Okay, you will not. You will work with the people. You will not rule them. Neither you will have people-oriented policies, not force. We've seen a police that has taken the nature of the military, maybe because we had our democracy coming out from the military. They haven't really acted as civilian apparatus for the Nigerian people. Here, the IG in Borno State at a summit, at the Northeast Summit, was stating that public trust, consent, partnership are the foundations upon which the police rest, that the architecture that alienates the people, regardless of how they're equipped or motivated, cannot stand. We understand this. However, IG, we want to move beyond sound bites. I mean, anybody can prepare a speech, but we want you to, in actual fact, deploy these people-oriented policies through our police. And what this article does not say was the steps which you would take, and that's what I was yearning to hear. Because the truth is this: the police has a confidence of crisis right now, especially the fact that the presidency seems to be using the military to carry on what should be police duties, e.g., the positive ID exercise.
Which we'll get to.
Yes. Secondly, during elections, you see how the military, in most cases, have to come in. Thirdly, which is the one that is most obvious, right now the military is far stretched across the country in about over 30 exercises, operations, and projects. That's internal security. That should have been constitutionally the brief of the police. Now, yes, they're overstretched. Yes, there's so many bad eggs among them. Yes, we have issues of efficiency, effectiveness, enforcement, politicization, where you cannot even have them at the state government level. We have flaws of harassment, wrongful profiling, the scope of justice, response time. There's a lot on the IG's hands to be able to bring this words that he just muted out, police-friendly policies, to life. And I hope he can put those structures. Well, I'm a member, so I will speak here.
You remember
That's
what? Exactly.
the PCCI, that's the Police Community Relations.
Okay, so as a member, let me ask you this question, because I like
Yes.
the first few statements you just made at the start of your analysis. You said work in the interest, which could be interpreted as empathy, showing empathy to people, and you said work with, that probably largely involves intelligence and cooperation on the part of police and then the people.
Yeah.
How much progress would you say they've made so far, and in the coming days, because they've been having talks around collaborations and
Yes.
involving people even at state levels?
They've not really made a lot of progress because, like he mentioned, he owned up to it. People have lost trust across the years with the police. When they say police is their friend, you hear a lot of backlash. Please, 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 please. We need to earn this. Remember the issue of the SARS and how aggressive Nigerians became.
Yes.
They need to go a lot. They need to show practical examples. We need to see it, not hear it, of how they have become practical in their ways in terms of helping Nigerians, supporting Nigerians, so that we in turn can give them back the trust that they need to be able to do their work.
Thank you very much, Devo. We go very quickly to touch on this story, Balanho, from the Punch newspaper. Court stops Operation Positive Identification. Remember, 6 days ago, Femi Falana, a human rights lawyer, actually sued the army and sought an injunction to stop that process, or the Operation Positive Identification that the Nigerian army has muted to take place. But your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a it's a good move. I mean, just as you've mentioned, Chief, that's Mr. Femi Falana, who's the SAN, did file a lawsuit, and he said his argument is that the operation is a violation of the constitutional rights. Is a violation of the people's civil liberties. So he has filed that in court, and while these court proceedings were taking place, the Nigerian army, there was no representative of the Nigerian army that turned up, but somebody from the federal government, that is the from the Office of the Solicitors General of the Federation, that's Mr. Dayo Akpata, did show up in defense of the government, and he did request for an adjournment of the case, and the case has now been adjourned till the 18th of November. But the judge did rule that we should maintain status quo and stay of execution. So this operation, which should have kicked off on the 1st of November and ended on December 23rd, is now being held, or is no longer going to be taking place now. Of course,
until the judgment.
Until the judgment, yes, until the judgment. Of course, let me remind everyone what this exercise was meant to be doing. The Nigerian Army did say that the exercise was meant to be stemming the tide or the movement of Boko Haram and other bandits around the country. It was meant to be started in the northeastern part of Nigeria initially, but the exercise now was supposed to be rolling out to other parts of Nigeria, and people were meant to be stopped and searched by the army, requesting for their IDs, any form of identification, driver's license or whatnot. But of course, just as we've said in the past, this is in breach of people's rights. The Nigerian army isn't the Nigerian Immigration Service. Nigerians are citizens and they are allowed free movement up and about the
But
country.
is it a necessary action though?
By the Nigerian army?
By whoever?
What action are we talking about? The
So
action by the...
check the identity just to stem the infiltration that has happened. We know it is.
Well, why don't you try and do that at the borders? Why are you trying to stop
Which
and
is why there's
search?
the partial border closure, amongst other things.
No, but I mean, you already have stop and search.
Exactly. Well, you do have,
And it should be by the police, not
police,
the military.
exactly,
They
not
don't
the
have,
military.
they're not trained to be able to treat with their
Absolutely.
gentle
So
hands.
that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on to our next story here from the telecommunications industry. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami, has ordered the Nigerian Communications Commission to implement a directive on the reduction of the cost of data in the country. Now, Divo, he's talked about the fact that Nigerians were paying so much for data without enjoying value for money spent. I'm sure this story would resonate with a number of Nigerians. People can identify with this. You top up, and before you know it, it's gone. Please take us through this story and the 5-day ultimatum.
Wow, this story is really scary, honestly. I'm shivering right here because the Minister of Communication has given a directive to the NCC, that's the regulatory body in charge of telcos, to enforce an earlier directive to compel providers to stop illegal deductions on subscriber data within 5 days.
Yes.
So that is by Friday or Monday, they should have implemented. Now, he told them that in most cases, Nigerians have been complaining and that the issue is worrying him personally to death.
Yeah.
That's a strong statement from a minister. And he's saying that in his case, he also had deduction from his data line, and that in terms of his consumption, by the time the data finished, he wasn't sure that he had even used up to 20%. Now, this issue is very important. And then doing this, he said that most African countries, they don't charge, that are not as big as Nigeria, they don't charge as high as this. And he wasn't satisfied with the explanation the NCC gave. Now, we need to be careful here. Though the minister is in charge, and yes, he is meant to act in the interest of Nigerians. However, you were talking about a sector that is highly industrialized. Because my problem right now, and I want people to hear me clearly, the minister has an argument to push for better rates for Nigerians. But remember, this is not a government activity. This is a private sector-led activity. So operators have invested, okay, and they have looked at themselves. I think we have like 4 to 6 data providers on ground. That's the big ones, and based on market factors, that's demand and supply, they have given us rates. Okay, now the comparative the minister should not be speaking from a personal point of view. He should be speaking from a collective point of view. That's one. Secondly, that comparative analysis he gave that smaller countries have less data, I kind of doubt that, because I know I've traveled a bit within Africa and I know that Nigerian rates are actually affordable and comparably, I don't want to use the word cheap, let me use the word affordable, because many other countries are screaming that their rates are far higher. Thirdly, when you enforce a law that private operators should, what you're doing is fixing the price.
But he's not enforcing the law.
Exactly.
He's encouraging them to reevaluate their charges.
No, he's told them that the NCC must
They have to
implement
review
this
it.
in 5 days.
So, Diva has
So
to
that is
mention
an
something.
enforcement.
I have to mention something very
Okay.
quickly. He's not just asking for a downward review of the price. He's also saying that people should get value for what they're paying for.
Right.
And we've had this complaint a number of times that you top up, you buy data, and then it goes into thin air, as it were. So that is the function of a regulatory body, to
Right.
ensure that your consumers are being served properly. So I don't think it's going beyond.
I wish he had stated what NCC said, because I would love the public to hear NCC's positions, which is the technical part. And why I'm saying this is, what it means is that us consumers need to have a way of checking our data, seeing how the consumption goes. We need to understand. Remember when it was per minute billing, they said it wasn't possible. What did one of the big local operators do? He introduced per second billing, and you could see that on your phone, that by the time it charges, it shows you this is how much you use and this is the cost. That's what we need on the data side, so that we can defend our consumption.
Thank you, Divo. In fact, Emeka from Amo says, because of illegal deductions, I do 1 month subscription 4 times in a month. Good move from the minister.
Thank you, Emeka. All right, Lai Mohammed is back again, and he's saying that federal government has begun the process for social media sanitization. This is in the Vanguard. Bola, I'm very quickly, please take us through this.
Well, I mean, just as we've said in the past, that the government is looking at regulating the social media space. The Minister of Communication, Information and Culture has come out to say that the government is already working on this. But what he now said, which is positive, is that they're engaging stakeholders, and then they will be talking about how best to go about regulating this space. And the other comment that he did make in this article was that he's happy that the conversation is coming on board now, because when they threw it out in the media that government is going to be regulating the social media space, he said that he didn't expect Nigerians to take it hook, line, and sinker, and as such, they're going to be regulating the space, but they're also going to be bearing in mind the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression of the citizens, and so they're not going to be stifling.
Please, who are the stakeholders for social media?
Citizens will be stakeholders generally. But you're also looking at
journalists,
the media,
politicians,
influencers, just generally everybody in society. So the question that you're probably pointing at is that you hope that the stakeholders that they're going to be inviting will be the
all-inclusive,
and not just a select few.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to our next story here, and I'll come to you, Divo, for this. Security agents, monarchs know Boko Harams are about, and this is a strong statement coming in from the governor of Borno State, Governor Babagana Umaru, who said that they're known to the security agents, monarchs, and some members of the public in the northeast, and so they should help in fighting to end this war on terrorism. Thank you for us through this story.
Once again, sound bites regarding the troubles that we face in the northeast. Of course, we've always known that people knew where they were about. What is not mentioned most times when we discuss Boko Haram is that Boko Haram has some territories. Whether the army likes to mention it or not, that is the truth. The foreign NGOs have suffered this aspect simply because there are areas which the terrorists have literally taken over. Yet the army is still going on and it's on offensive, and I think because of the lack of strong coordination that is not there, that is why many people are not offering information clearly, because we do remember when they changed the strategy and shifted base, some people were attacked, so they felt that they had lost their cover that they had. I think the army needs to review this architecture, that with the small allocation that was given to the army and the military, that it doesn't look like the country is ready to end this war anytime soon. With 154,000 soldiers, the country needs about 400,000 to deliver this mandate.
Thank you, Divo. Yinko says, good morning, guys. Honestly, I'm a tech guy. The problem is that most people do not know how to check their own phones, as reacting to the illegal deductions part about data. They said they don't know how to check their own phones for the background applications that are running and accessing the internet without the owner's knowledge. It has very little to do with the telecoms operators. Blame it on the Android and the iOS users.
Maybe a good idea, since they're getting so much
flack for
this, that they should have an awareness raising campaign to let people know how to save on data, because they spend so much money on campaigns. This could be part of what they're doing.
And most phones are smart enough to tell you the apps that are running in the background.
Some people are not smart enough to use those smartphones.
Actually, yeah. Wow. Okay, that ran deep. Thank you, Divo. And Divo Kore is his handle on Twitter. Bolanho is at Mr. G Quest. Join us next as we talk sports inside of the locker room.
I hope those people are smart enough.
The headlines, the stories, the news.
Someone